All right, welcome everyone. My name is Christopher Locke. I'm the IBPA Director of Membership and Member Services, and this is the webinar series called Get to Know Your IBPA Member Benefits. So we do this because we want to make sure that you all see all the member benefits and in-depth explanations of how they work. Today we're covering two very cool new benefits. We have the ProAudioVoices audiobook production services benefit, but then under the same umbrella, you've got the AMPlify Audiobooks distribution platform, which is super cool. So I'm happy to introduce our speaker today, ProAudioVoices CEO and founder, Becky Parker-Geist. Hello, how are you?
Doing great. Thank you. Thank you so much, Christopher, not only for the introduction, but for all the great work that you do at IBPA. We really appreciate you and all the benefits that IBPA offers. So I want to reiterate for our listeners that if you're not yet a member of IBPA, you definitely will, you definitely should join. It is a great, great organization. So thank you.
Thank you. All right, we'll take it away, and we appreciate that vote of confidence.
All right. Well, let's see. Let me just share my screen here and hit the play button once I can access it. There we go. All right. So what we're going to talk about today is audiobooks and two areas in particular, both really critical. And I know that I talk with authors every day, and I'm going to address some of the questions that do come up about the process overall. So there are two main areas of production that we're going to focus on, especially in this webinar, because they are related to the benefits that you gain as a member of IBPA. And those are pre-production and then also distribution. So when I am thinking about an audiobook, I'm always thinking about not just creating a product, but that it really is an opportunity to leverage the format of audiobooks to achieve your bigger goals. So identifying what your bigger goals are is really your first step. And hopefully you've already done that for your book production, regardless of which formats you've already got your book in. So we want to set yourself up for success, and that starts with pre-production. So I'm going to dive into that next. And then we're going to sort of jump a little bit towards the end of the overall production process and talk about how you can maximize your success by staying in control of your product. As indie authors and indie publishers, I think most of us recognize that staying in control of the work and the creative process is really valuable. So when I think about pre-production, I'm really thinking about it's kind of like marketing from the inside out. And there are several things that go into pre-production. These include preparing the manuscript so that it is ready for recording. You might have the idea that no preparation is actually necessary, but we have found over the many years that we've been doing this that when you are prepared, everything goes more smoothly. You can also not only make it go more smoothly, but you can discover opportunities that are going to benefit you long term. And so we're really looking for those opportunities. You also, during pre-production, we're dealing with casting, whether that is the author narrating or whether that is having professional narrator, or if it's having a full cast or multiple voices, whichever version it is, pre-production is the time to get all of that sorted out. In addition, there are many opportunities that most authors either aren't aware of or don't take advantage of. And that is especially noticed in bonus materials. There's some great opportunities. I'll go a little deeper on that as well. And then enhancements, I'm really talking about things like music and sound effects. And whether you're in fiction or nonfiction, you might be surprised to learn that those can have a place when appropriate for the manuscript. Those can have a place in either fiction or nonfiction. The next phase that I'll just deal with briefly here. But the next phase is once everything is figured out, then we move into the production and post-production phase. Um, and and there we're going to be really following through on everything that's been mapped out in pre-production. That also includes the phase where you're reviewing your files and making sure that they sound the way you would like them to. We at ProAudioVoices are very collaborative in our approach to the work, and that makes a big difference. It helps you stay in the driver's seat of your project without having to be, treating it like a DIY where you have to try to figure everything out. We provide all the expertise and the guidance, and you get to make the decisions that are important to your project. And then when we get to the distribution phase, there are a couple things uh, that many people aren't really aware of. They just think about, oh, all I want to do is I just want to get it on Audible. Well, that is thinking it's just limited usually by not knowing more about the industry. And so I'm really committed to educating our authors about what your options are and why, and in guiding decisions that I think are going to be to your greatest benefit. So we'll get into more of that. And AMPlify Audiobooks is the platform that and it's also, you have an IBPA member benefit that is specifically for AMPlify Audiobooks as well, where you get to stay in control, earn higher royalties, and really build your following and your community. So as we dive a little deeper into the pre-production phase, the first thing we're doing is we're looking at that manuscript. Now, here's the thing. When I talk about crafting your listener's experience, imagine, if you will, that you have, let's start with nonfiction. If you have a book that maybe has questions in it, your intent with your book may be that you want to get your listener to think about something in particular. Maybe it's about some aspect of their business life, or maybe it's something that they've experienced personally, and you want them to really think about the question. If you just rattle off the questions, or let me put it this way, if you're a listener and someone just rattles off the questions to you and then keeps moving on, are you given the opportunity to take the time to actually engage with those questions, to start to think about them? Well, no, you won't be. So when we are looking at pre-production, we're thinking about, what is that listener experience? We want an engaged listener. Why? It may be obvious, but I'm going to say it anyway. The reason we want an engaged listener is because they're going to get a better experience with your material, with your content. They're going to learn more from you. And when they learn more from you, not only are they getting that benefit personally, but then they're also going to come back, turn to you again. They're going to want to stay with you and follow you and learn more from you. So not only are they getting more, so are you as the one providing that experience. Now with fiction, it's a similar thing. If your listener is really engaged with you and with your material, they're going to want more. And you're building that relationship through your content. So it's really important to think about and craft what that listener experience is going to be. When we approach this, we're often looking for things like, how and when are we appropriately inviting, inviting the listener to come visit you at your website to learn more about your other books, your other offerings. And I have found in my experience as a listener that many times I can't even figure out how to find the author that I'm so interested. I really enjoy the audiobook, and then There's no information about the author or how to find them or follow them, and it's just it's really challenging. Well, we, especially as indie authors and publishers, we want to make it not only easy, but we want it to feel like this warm invitation to come be part of the community. Okay, the other another aspect that we mentioned is casting. There's often a question about whether the author should narrate. Sometimes that's appropriate, especially if the author really wants to, and sometimes it's not, especially if the author is not so excited about that possibility. But there are other factors as well, and we help the author work through what that decision is going to be. And there are many options: a single voice, multiple voices, full cast. I put, you'll see that on the slide that I put AI in brackets. And the reason I did that is because I do not consider AI a viable or appropriate option for audiobooks. Now, I boldly state that as my opinion, and I have many deep philosophical reasons why I hold that opinion. I'm not going to go into those here. If you, I talk about those on my podcast, Audiobook Connection, and I invite you to join me there if that's of interest in exploring. But, uh, but this casting, this piece of figuring out the casting is important. Okay, now, bonus materials is one of the most exciting and fun and missed opportunities that we have. And this is fiction or nonfiction, it doesn't matter. So, one of the key ones that's an opportunity, sneak preview. A sneak preview is especially great if you have a series or if you have some other book that is for the same audience or a similar audience. The sneak preview is an opportunity to share some of that material to sort of whet the appetite of your listener for another book of yours. It doesn't have to be already in audio in order for it to be appropriate to include as a sneak preview. You're just giving them a taste of the material. And then another, and this is one of my favorites, is to do an interview. We frequently interview our authors. I will interview them and will include that on my podcast. So we're giving them a little bit of marketing exposure as well as we release their audiobooks. The interview can be done really cool. This is what I like to do. And that is let's say the interview is 20 minutes long. You can include the first 10 or so minutes and then invite your listeners to your website to hear the full audio, to hear the full interview. So we've got them, it's like on the edges of their seats in terms of now they're listening, they're engaged in this conversation with the author, which I think those are always interesting anyway. And now we use that as an opportunity to say, oh, come on over here and hear the full interview. Now, once they're on their website, they can see more of what you have to offer. And then I did already talk a bit about music or sound effects. One of the ways that these can be really beneficial, and I mentioned things like asking questions. If you have questions in your book, if you have a meditation, that's like, of course you'll want music. And the reason is because we want to create an opportunity, an experience for your listeners that goes beyond just hearing the words, hearing the content. We want them to have an experience that they're going to benefit from and grow from, and it's going to be meaningful to them and to you. Okay, here are some examples just to give you an idea. This is an audiobook that we recently released. It's called Is Your Tongue Killing You by Joy Moeller. And there are many images or photos in the book. And so what we did is you're always looking for opportunities to build engagement and to invite listeners to your website. So we put in a statement in the audiobook to find a collection of supplementary images and materials. Please visit joymoeller.com. Now, she had many photos in her book, so we didn't do that for every single one, but we put it in sprinkled in a few different places just to remind listeners that they could see these images, that they are available to them. I want to mention something. Sometimes people will say, well, can we attach it as a PDF to the audiobook? And it's true that Audible does make it possible to do that, but I don't think that's in the best interest of the author, because what it does, it it never gets the listener to your website, and your website should always be like your core marketing hub. So we want to you're much better off inviting them to your website where you have control. You can make changes if you want at any time. Here's another one that we worked on, and this is in this case, the choice was, so if you read the text on the left, it'll say, still skeptical? Take a look at this chart. Well, obviously, we don't want to read it like that because that would just be annoying to the listener. Well, how am I supposed to look at the chart? It's not there, obviously. So what we did is the author created a PDF of all the visuals within the book. And then at the beginning of the book, the audiobook, we had a statement about how how to get that PDF so that you could then reference it during the audiobook. So that is another way to handle it. It's just slight variation. And then I did go into some of this. So the sneak preview, great with the book series. The interview, that it can be with the author. That's what we most often will do. You can also include narrators if they're up for it, and that can be really fun as well. Just some other ideas for further engagement that some of our clients have utilized. Things like at the end, I've got this quiz if you want to take it, or sort of an analysis. One was about it was a book that involved mythology, and it was like, well, which of these ancient gods do you most relate to, or something along those lines. It was a fun game-like approach that invited further engagement. If you already have a lead magnet on your website, a free gift, then that might be appropriate to invite them to enjoy that. Again, anytime you can get your listener to come over to your website, that is a good thing for both of you. Once we are past that pre-production process, and I want to just actually pause for a moment, because I want to, so one of the benefits for IBPA members is a discount on the pre-production fee, because that whole first segment, there's a fee for that, and you're going to save $150 off of that just by being a member of IBPA. So I wanted just to take a moment, and I'll come back to that at the end as well. As we move into the actual production process, then this is the phase we're in here. At ProAudioVoices, you have your own dedicated project manager, someone who's got their finger on the pulse and will be your primary point of contact. And they're the ones that are going to set up calls with you and provide weekly status updates. It's a very collaborative and responsive team of people. That's the way that we work together within our team as well as with our clients. We love collaboration, and we recognize how important it is to be responsive when people have questions. During this, once the audiobook has been recorded and edited by a human editor, then there's going to be a time for client review and pickups. That's what we call PUPs. Those are just corrections, notes, little things that you would like changed. That's the opportunity once you've reviewed your audiobook and all the files to make any requests for changes. We are also able to set you up with pre-orders so that you can start your marketing while we're in production of the audiobook. And that is a valuable opportunity and optional, but it is an option for you. And it's only available on AMPlify Audiobooks. It's not, you may sometimes see on audiobook platforms that there are pre-orders of some books, but it is not easy to actually get one set up if you're an indie author and don't have some clout. I think they are mostly either big publishers or Audible itself that will set those up for themselves. But you have the opportunity with AMPlify Audiobooks. And then I mentioned the bonus interview. We also will post that on my podcast, Audiobook Connection, when your book goes live, and we'll create a little ad as part of that for so that we're supporting you in your launch process. Okay, so getting professional results, it matters. It really matters a lot. If you have ever listened to an audiobook that was not professionally done or not done well, then you may have also had that experience of getting turned off. I have had that experience as a listener where it's a great author. I'll never forget this experience because I listened to one of her audiobooks. She's quite well known. And I really thoroughly enjoyed it. So I went to get another one of her audiobooks and I just couldn't listen to it. I tried to work my way through it, but it was work. And I felt like I had to somehow, I was trying to push past the terrible narrator in order to hear the story properly. And I couldn't do it. So it was so frustrating that I gave up on it. And what did I do then? You know what? I haven't gone back to listen to any of that author's books anymore, even though she has many. And I guess it boils down to the fact that she did a poor job, or her publisher did a poor job of selecting a narrator that was going to do a great job with that audiobook. So the author has lost out. So it really does matter. It's so important. And there are a lot of detail, a lot of skilled work that goes into the creation of an audiobook. I'm not going to sort of work through all the little pieces here, but I just wanted to highlight how labor intensive the process is and how detailed it is. And a lot of people have no idea just how detailed the process overall is. So then as we move, once your audio files are all, done, ready to go, approved, then we start looking at the distribution process. So you have, there are a lot of different, there are a few different ways that you can launch your audiobook. And we're always happy to strategize with you to determine what's going to work best for you. If you have a publicist, we love working with publicists and collaborating with them so that we're making sure that they have the information and the guidance that they need on the audiobook aspect so that you're going to get your best results. Some people ask, well, is it better to have the audiobook all done and when I first do my book launch, or should I wait and do it later so that, then it's another thing to make an announcement about to my following? And or there's a third option, or launch audio first and then launch the other formats. Well, there are advantages either way. So it's going to what I recommend is that if you are planning out a longer audio or a longer book launch, and when I say longer, I mean if you're really putting in, several months of planning for your launch, which I do recommend, and if you are focused on your marketing, which I do recommend, then you might be better off launching separately, launching the audiobook separately, either before or after the other formats, because it does give you that opportunity to send another announcement to your following and with some real news, and so that can be an advantage. If you are an author who, it's like, I'm going to do a month-long launch, and then I really just want to get back to writing the next book. If that's more your way of thinking, and then you might want to have everything ready all at the same time. Because if you're not planning to do a lot of marketing long term, which I do recommend, then you may want to make sure that you have it all together at once. But again, happy to strategize with you. Now, here are some cool things about the distribution piece that are now available to you, and they're available to you through AMPlify Audiobooks. You are able to run promotions. So when I'm talking about specifically here is you can set promotional pricing on a schedule. So you say, okay, the month of June, because it's audiobooks month, I'm going to put my book on sale. That is an option with AMPlify Audiobooks. Just to be clear, there is not a way that you can do that, for example, on Audible or audiobooks.com or Barnes and Noble or any of the other, dozens of audiobook platforms, because they just don't have that set up where you have that kind of control over your audiobook. And this is one of the biggest reasons, one of the core reasons that we developed AMPlify Audiobooks in the first place, is because we have clients who were coming to me and saying, I really want to run a promotion for my audiobook. And I was like, that's great. And I wish there was a way that we had control over, or give you control over, the pricing. And the best thing that was out there was, a chirp promotion, but you have to apply for those. And most of the time you don't get them, even if you've written several books. And so that's not really a viable option for most people. But I believe, as an indie author and someone who really cares about indie authors, that we should have that level of control over our own work, especially since we're the ones who are funding our projects. We're the ones who are creating them in the first place. By golly, we ought to have the control over the marketing and distribution of them. And so that is why AMPlify Audiobooks came into being, is from that frustration that built into determination to get that platform launched. So running a promotion can be a great tool during your launch. You can, do special pricing as you launch it for a special, launch price. You also have the opportunity, and again, this is not available on any of the other standard platforms. You can create discount codes. Now, there are some platforms, such as audiobooks.com, where you can request free codes, but what if you want to give a percentage off, not 100% off? What if you want to give a certain dollar amount off? Those are not options. What if you would like it to expire at a certain point? Again, those are not options anywhere else, but on AMPlify Audiobooks, it is. So we like to help you strategize with how you might use those discount codes. You can, if you're whatever groups you might be part of, that's a terrific way to utilize a discount code. And you can set the terms that you want to set. Now, another thing, and this is also about AMPlify Audiobooks, is that a differentiator in those platforms like Audible, audiobooks.com, all of the retail library platforms out there that we'll get your audiobooks out onto those platforms as well, but you're not going to know who actually purchased your audiobook through any of those platforms. As you may be well aware, that information about who the customers are and their email address, that is super valuable information. And it is not something that those retailers are going to give up. But on AMPlify Audiobooks, you are essentially, it's kind of like the Etsy of audiobooks. You are selling direct on the AMPlify platform. So you do know who buys your audiobooks when they buy through AMPlify Audiobooks. And so you can start to get a feeling from these opportunities, these marketing tools that you have as a part of AMPlify Audiobooks. You can start to get a feel for why it is such a valuable platform to you, and therefore, why, when you are marketing, the best thing you can do is you can direct that marketing traffic to buy your audiobook, to buy it on AMPlify Audiobooks. Yes, it's also fine if you want to let them know that it's available elsewhere, if you've decided to take that step. You also have the opportunity, if you want, to only post it on AMPlify Audiobooks and let that be your one platform. Totally up to you. And we can strategize with you as to which seems like the best move for you. You also, you might want to consider other options like podcasting, just in terms of your marketing. But I'm not going to go deep into that today, but that's something we can talk about. So this is the distribution, the problem with the retail model in general. And I've covered some of this, but when in looking at this problem, which I was facing every day for years, trying to find a solution for our clients, the problem was, here we are as indie authors, we're carrying all the expense, we're having all the creative, doing all the creative, everything. We're doing it all. And then we, of course, want to get it out into the world. And we did, we need those retail platforms, right? We need a way to be able to get it out there. And it is especially more challenging because audiobooks, unlike a print book or an ebook, which is a single product, a single physical product or a single digital product, an audiobook is neither, doesn't fit either of those. An audiobook is a package of products. It's a package of cover image, metadata, and a playlist of audio files. It is never a single audio file. And so that complicates it. And what that means in terms of it being more complex, the problem is not that you're not able to sell it from your website as a set of files. That's not the problem. The problem is that no listener today really wants to experience trying to play that audiobook when what they've been given is this set of files. We're used to having a good listener experience using apps. Apps give us the opportunity to just listen to it as if it is one continuous file. So we need that audiobook player app. And this is where that problem was. So we need that app. Um, so the problem, sort of coming back, I think I went down the rabbit hole there. The problem the problem was the authors are carrying all of the expense of the burden, but the retailers, and though we need them, all they were doing is putting it on their platform, right? And they do take the vast majority of the royalties from each sale. One of the things I want you to be aware of, and I'm constantly out there trying to educate on this point because it is not transparent at all in the industry. And so I'm trying to add transparency here, is that digital distributors, if you go to a website like ACX, for example, or Authors Republic, they will state a percentage that you receive, a percentage, but they don't say of what. Well, that's a problem, because what they're doing there by stating the percentage you will earn without saying what the percentage is they're allowing you to make a false assumption in your mind. They're counting on you making that false assumption. Your assumption would naturally be that it's a percentage of whatever they sell it for. That's not the case. It's a percentage of the net. And the difference between the gross and the net is usually significant. The gross amount is what somebody is actually paying to buy your audiobook. Then the retailer will take out whatever they consider to be their expenses, and then the net is what's left over. Then they're going to pay you a percentage of that net. So it ends up being much lower than we expect it to be. I can't tell you how many authors I've talked to who, after seeing their royalties report, were so frustrated. They're like, why is it such a small amount considering the sales? And that's why. So I just want you to be aware of it, because there is a better solution now, finally. So digital distributors, the good thing about them, and why we do use a digital distributor to go wide, to get your audiobook out into places where people are looking for them, like Audible, like audiobooks.com, Spotify, Libro.fm. These platforms are doing a good job of marketing their platforms, and that is helpful. So it's good to be on them, but it's also good to have a place where we can direct traffic so that we can earn more and have more control. And that is AMPlify Audiobooks. So you're earning much higher royalties. And I will tell you the transparent truth about the royalties and it's exactly as we stated on our website. You get 65% of the gross amount. So that's the amount that you choose to sell it for. If you choose to give a discount code, then whatever somebody pays for it, you get a straight 65% of that. All the other 35% is covering things like merchant fees and other expenses that happen just as a natural part of that sale. Okay, let's see. I put under here on the digital distributors, noting about consider timing. And this is related specifically to the issue we were talking about earlier about whether you want to launch your audiobook before, at the same time as, or after your other formats. So what I found when I launched my novel last year was I launched audio first, partly because I wanted to see how well that worked, and partly because audio is my thing anyway. So that just seemed like a natural to me. And I found that worked really, really well. So I launched first on AMPlify Audiobooks, and I got some of my best sales through that platform and my highest royalties. And then I launched with the print and ebook next, and I did those at the same time. I think I might have separated those, but they were close to each other. And then about a month later, I launched it with a broad distribution to the other platforms like Audible, etc. So there are a lot of different ways that you can approach that. Um, and I will mention, because many of you may know about platforms like, actually, they're the only one that I know of that does this, but there are, well, no, I know of two, BookFunnel and Spotify both have apps that make it possible to sell direct. And they do have a higher monthly cost. I know BookFunnel, when I last checked, was $833, and it said that it was going to go up. And here's the thing: is that the discovery, though, is completely up to you. Now, most of our discovery is going to be up to us anyway in our marketing, but keep in mind that it's like having your own sort of lemonade stand bookstore all by yourself. These are my books, and that's all that we have over here. That's your website, right? Where you have only your own stuff. Versus I'm going into a bookstore and now I see all these titles. Oh, that looks like interesting. I came here for this one, but that also looks interesting. I'll get them both. Or you get discovered through being part of a larger bookstore. And so there's a benefit there. Another benefit is that on AMPlify Audiobooks, we really actively help our authors connect with each other. And as we upgrade the platform, we already have plans for additional ways to make it even easier to facilitate communication between authors so we can help each other out. So that authors of a similar genre may have a similar audience, that those authors can work together to cross-promote their audiobooks and books. So that building of community is really valuable. And that is a part of, it's sort of baked into what we're trying to do with AMPlify Audiobooks. Okay. So as I mentioned, you have with AMPlify Audiobooks, which has a member benefit. When you're a member of IBPA, you get $150 off that setup fee. And I want to talk about the setup fee as well. But when you're on that platform, you get way higher royalties, as I described. You have the control over not only your pricing and discount codes, but also, how, if you want to make a change to something when you're on some of the other platforms, it takes a long time for a change to actually happen. You're here on AMPlify, it's very quick. It's like instant. You make the change, you hit submit, it's changed. You have access to your customer info, and when people purchase an audiobook on AMPlify Audiobooks, they are their terms and conditions are they are opting in to receive communication from you. So you can safely, appropriately add them to your email list. You have the option to do audio first or audio only. Now, some of you may have books or screenplays or children's books that either aren't ready yet for publication in a text format, or that you don't even have plans for them to be in a text format, but might be really great as audio. You have the opportunity with AMPlify to be able to do that, and that is not an option on the other platforms. The digital distributors require a publication in another format prior to launching in audio or uploading audio files. But that's not the case on AMPlify. So it's opening up more doors for you and your possibilities for success. There's a lot more consumer awareness these days, and I think that's continuing to grow the value of buying local, buying direct from the creators. And so that is helpful. We do have a listening app, so that's available in the app stores, and there will be coming in a future upgrade, there will be a web app as well, so that people will be able to listen from laptops and such. And it provides a way for authors, for publishers, for listeners, all to have more impact and be a more active part of working together to make this world a better place. Now, I want to touch base on, I'll get to it at the end. I want to make sure that I talk to you about there is a setup fee, and that's what you have a discount off of as an IBPA member. And I want to chat about it because it's not obvious when you are on other platforms such as ACX. I'll just use them as the example because it's the one that most people are familiar with. When they take the high royalties, the high chunk of the royalties, and if you're going non-exclusive, which is always going to be better, they're going to take 75% of the net. So first of all, they're going to take away their expenses, right? They're not going to count those. And then they're going to give you 75% of the net. That's what they're taking. So, and they're going to do that for the lifetime of your audiobook. So the more you sell, the more you're giving away to them, the more they're earning. And you're getting, so it means, so if you have ambitions and plans to sell a lot of audiobooks, which you should, and plan to, do the marketing that's going to generate that, which you should, then AMPlify Audiobooks is going to make all the more sense for you, because that setup fee at the beginning is is less than what you would lose in royalties with that 75% that's being taken away by the audiobook retailers. So you're going to start to see your return much more quickly because you're going to be earning so much more on every single sale, and you're going to offset that setup fee. So in essence, what I'm trying to say is that we're taking it as a chunk set fee at the beginning rather than a lifetime of high percentage of royalty fees. So it's at the front end instead of the back end. Okay. So with AMPlify, you actually have your own author dashboard. You get to stay in control. Your listeners have a smooth customer experience with the app, and it's easy to update your metadata, your pricing, your cover image, whatever you want to need to change. You get that direct access. You have real-time reporting. And this is another thing that I didn't touch on yet, is you get paid weekly. So in the standard retail world of audiobooks, when your audiobook sells, let's say it sells May 1st, you at those retailers, at the end of the month, they're going to start doing their figuring out, their reporting and reconciling and all of that. And then a few weeks later, you're going to get paid for that month prior. So it could be, 3 weeks into June before you see any money for that May 1st purchase. And often they will have a threshold amount that they're not going to, you have to earn a certain amount of royalties before they even pay out. With AMPlify, there is no threshold and you get paid weekly. So you get to see that revenue coming in. I think, it's really helpful to us, encouraging to us as authors to have that regular income, seeing it come in. And so, and then if you have somebody that you're working with, maybe you have a co-author, or if you have an assistant who is helping you, you can have a user account for them where they can, you can give them access to help you out with your AMPlify Audiobooks dashboard. Okay, I think I've covered all of these things, so I'm going to jump ahead. Community, so important. I think that's one of the great things about IBPA is we are a community of people who care about books, audiobooks, ebooks, what we're doing in the world, the kind of impact that we're having. We are a community, and we can support each other as such. And so, this is, again, central to our values and why we built AMPlify Audiobooks. We all need community. Okay. Just to let you know, some of the things that AMPlify Audiobooks has as part of the app currently, we have featured titles, we have new releases, titles that are on sale. So if you put your title on sale, then that will show up in a different kind of way, which is great. One of the things I think is so important, you have a support team that actually cares about your success and is responsive. And we do have a motivated community of authors. And as I said, we are actively looking for those places where we can make connections. For example, last October, we ran a thrillers month, and we had all of our thriller authors who put their books on sale for Thrillers Month. And then we did a bunch of cross promotion during that process. Reviews and postings and email newsletters and all kinds of things. It was great. And the app works like how Audibles does, in terms of how it plays, how you play an audiobook. So it's not anything that's, it's very intuitive and easy for listeners to use. And I will just say that there are no in-app purchases. That's also true for Audible. That is, the app stores take a really high percentage of any sales that go through an app. And that's the reason why Audible doesn't do it. It's the same reason why we don't. In our case, we want you as the authors to retain those royalties rather than giving them up. So that was important to us as we were developing the program and the platform. Okay, we do also, I'll just mention this, it is not something that we currently have IBPA member benefits for, but we do have additional marketing options that are available to our, so if you're looking for marketing support as well, we have everything from mentorship to social media support packages, monthly calls with marketing experts, just many different options, including helping you get set up with your own podcast if that is something that you're interested in. So here we are to what the benefits are. So the production costs vary quite a bit, and it really depends on the scope of the project. So we do free calls that will provide for you what that pricing would be based on exactly what it is that you want to create. So, so the cost will vary. But for our pre-production, there's two different ones. So for author publishers or indie authors, $150 off that pre-production, which is regularly $500. And for publishers, we actually have a special program for publishers that offers special pricing, and there's a setup fee for that. If you're a publisher and you're not getting your clients' books into audio yet, we'd love to talk with you about what we have to offer. And then if that looks like it's a good fit for you, we have a special discount for you as an IBPA member. And then for AMPlify Audiobooks, so if you already have an audiobook, one or more, AMPlify Audiobooks, I've already talked about it a lot. So it includes your one-time account setup fee. That's that front-end cost. $399 is the regular price, and that includes the first 10 titles. There's also a $3.99 maintenance fee that is per account, not per title. And then if you have more than 10 titles, it's only $10 per title for setup fee. There is no additional maintenance fee. So your benefit for that is $150 off, so that drops it down to $249 as your one-time setup fee. So it's a real bargain, and we hope that you will join us for that. Do we have any questions?
All right. Well, I can tell you that was excellent information, Becky. I really appreciate you for going through all those details. Uh, at IBPA, we always want to set up our independent publishers for the most success and having autonomy. For example, especially through like the AMPlify audiobooks, it's a really great way for them to, control more of their audiobook. Like just sending it out to the world. So yes, we do have some questions though.
Right.
People, especially with the Amplify audiobooks, they just want to understand the logistics. So,
Sure.
is it a separate website? Are people putting like a link on their like publisher website that then people buy the audiobook? Like, how does it work?
Yeah, great. It is currently it is a portion of the ProAudioVoices website, but you can get to it by going to AMPlifyAudiobooks.com. So it's a standalone platform so that is, again, it's like the Etsy of audiobooks. So you have your own dashboard, but it's on our website. And then for that broader distribution, we go through a digital distributor where it goes out to all the other retail platforms for that broader distribution. But does that answer that question? That it's like on
Yeah,
our
people are
website?
just wondering, the idea of like, how do they start, and then how do, people that want to buy that audiobook access that audiobook and like where do they buy it? Because some of our
Right,
publishers do already on their website have things like Shopify and things like that. So just
right.
wondering how it connects.
Yeah. So on your website, you would put a link to your Amplify page. So you'll have your own page on Amplify with your book. There's a link to where if you want to see more titles by the same author, if you have more titles, then you'll have that sort of full store page on on Amplify, on the Pro Audio Voices website. And then, yes, so on your author website or publisher website, you would put a link, probably with the cover image of the audiobook, and then link it to your Amplify page. So that's how that would work.
Great. And it sounds like you do talk to publishers about their audiobooks in terms of it sounds like there's like a real collaboration,
Yeah,
which I like. There's that kind of one-on-one versus some of these bigger companies where there's no person that they connect to. So
yeah,
I do really like that about your business. Some people are wondering about in terms of like their book. I mean, they're trying to figure out, well, is my book something that would make a good audiobook? So I
right.
don't know if you want to get general in terms of like, okay, well, what are the genres that have the highest book sales? Is it romance or if they have something so niche, it's like, about the best golf swings, is that gonna do well on audiobooks? Do you give that type of information?
I can give some general comments about that. So typically, if your book is predominantly visually driven, it may be less likely a good candidate. However, knowing that if there's enough text in there that you're going to get, your listener's going to get good value from hearing the text, then you can still you take those images as opportunities to get them over to your website so that they could see them there. The other kind of book that is less, that's sort of like, we'll use coffee table book as sort of as an example of ones that are going to be less likely appropriate for audio. But again, even with those, depends on how much text there is, how much narrative there would be. The other is a reference book that where you would typically a reader would flip to different parts of the book to reference one concept or another. That's trickier with audio,
Hmm.
can be done. Less likely people are going to be looking to that kind of to audio as a format that's going to be appropriate and most helpful to them. But aside from those, like kids' books make great audiobooks, and for many different reasons, with a lot of educational value, uh, just all kinds of other, fiction, nonfiction. There are always going to be, there's going to be different genres that pop to the top, but honestly, even niche projects, niche can be really good. If you go deep into a niche, then you can get some great sales, from and good reach just because you're so focused. Focus is helpful.
Jumping back to the logistics question, when someone buys an audiobook like through Amplify, like how do they get the audiobook? How does it download to their like device?
Right. So when you purchase a book on the website, which is where you have to purchase it. So you purchase it on the website, and in order to complete that sale, you have to enter your email address and essentially set up an account, although it's very brief. And then when you open the app, you log in with the same email address and login credentials, and then it will show up in your library. I could actually might be able to show
So each
you.
listener, they need to be instructed to download the Amplify Audiobooks app, right?
Right, and it's all over the website, and it shows on the it shows like it's when they buy, they're given the instruction to download as well. I don't know if you can see. So that's
Mm-hmm.
kind of the way that looks when I'm logged in to, that's my
Mm-hmm.
library page. Oh no, that's the home page. I got my library page,
Mm-hmm.
you know. So um yeah, and then there's a lot on the on the home pages. You've got your on sale, you've got your featured. It's not overwhelming, but you get which is good. Um but lots of opportunities there.
Some people are wondering if somebody goes on the site, are there ways to buy an audiobook for like a friend, rather than just themselves?
Yeah, it's a little more. We're working on that actually. We're working on that. It's a little more complicated. It is possible if you're not trying to surprise the friend, and you can, do it through their actually create an account for them.
Mm,
That's no problem.
mm,
Uh, we're working on the gift certificate issue. We tested one idea out that we just found it wasn't functioning the way we needed it to. So yeah, it's actually, I have a call tomorrow. No, I have a call later today that is on, and we're going to be addressing that very issue. So it's coming, but we don't have that in place quite yet.
well, just let us know and we'll let our members know.
Yeah.
For Amplify, it was very interesting because you mentioned that you do, your own audiobooks and all the other platforms. So someone was wondering, is there a benefit to solely doing your audiobook on Amplify, or is it always good to kind of get it out wide to all the different places?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a great question. So I feel like it's totally my opinion. Um, that having it on that I always direct all my traffic to Amplify,
Mm,
you know. But I also know that if somebody is an Audible subscriber and they want my audiobook, they probably won't buy it on Amplify. They're
mm,
probably just going to wait because they just buy everything through Audible.
mm,
Uh, so for that reason, I feel like it's helpful to be in all the places where subscribers are already subscribing,
mm.
you know. Um, yeah, I have pros and cons in my mind about that, but that's my reasoning.
Yeah, and I can tell you that in general, IBPA really does recommend that diversifying where your books, ebooks, audiobooks, everything, the more places it is, the better chance for discoverability.
Yeah,
So something like Amplify Audiobooks, what's amazing is how much control you have over it, the higher royalties and all that. But like you were saying, when people a lot of people already have like Audible subscriptions, and so they probably already kind of sifting through that. So,
Right, right.
but okay, so someone else was saying that they record nonfiction and they normally have a straightforward, non-emotional recording. They're wondering if for things like that, like nonfiction, do you think that there should be emotion in the voice for the narrator?
Y- yes. Here's why. Because we're all humans. And, even business decisions are made on an emotional level.
Mhm.
We're just all humans. So we should really be talking to each other like humans. So it doesn't have to be like, um, it doesn't have to be like we're in the middle of a fiction piece or a dialogue, but I do think that when we talk conversationally to each other and when we, you know, which includes the recording of an audiobook, that we as listeners then are going to be more receptive. We're going to hear it more um, openly. We're not trying to box ourselves into, okay, now I'm just going to take in this content. But if somebody, we can learn a lot when we're relaxed and open. And we actually have a harder time learning when we're working at it, right? Think about what we've learned about in the educational settings. When education is fun, we learn more. So
Yeah.
yeah, keep it conversational. It can be it should be professional. It should have a tone that is appropriate to your audience. If it's like you're talking to high level investment bankers, then yeah, have a tone that's appropriate for them, but keep it conversational.
Mm.
Let it feel like one human being to another, because then they're going to have a better experience listening to it. They're more likely to come back to you for more.
Mm. And I mean, personally, I think business books should have more crying. Like I just like at every turn, just I want to hear someone hurting, and then I'm like, okay, now I believe them. So,
Yeah. Be real.
um,
Yeah.
so this has been great, Becky. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
It what you all provide. I mean, you've been around for a long time in business for audiobooks, but I love AMPlify Audiobooks. So I do hope members take advantage of both of these benefits. I put them in the chat. We'll make sure for people watching the video, you're on the page now. So, but if you have any questions, you can reach out to IBPA or Becky to ask more questions. But thank you so much for giving our members, a little more access to these two platforms. We really appreciate it.
My great pleasure. Thank you so much.
And everybody, we hope you take advantage of all the IBPA member benefits. And we also hope you have a great day. And we appreciate you for logging in and checking this out.
Great. Thanks.